Zhezhi has arrived alongside patch 1.2. There are a number of different ways you can play her, so let's jump into her usual analysis. We'll paint the picture by going through her sequences, weapon options, teams, and rotations. Let's get into it. Zhezhi is primarily a sub-DPS, doing a majority of her damage through off-field coordinated attacks, similar to Yinlin. However, unlike Yinlin, who has to build up her forte to trigger this effect, Zhezhi's passive damage comes from her liberation. As long as you aren't AFK for 3 seconds, this is essentially a damage over time effect, triggering a coordinated attack once per second, perfect for Jinhsi. Most of Zhezhi's damage, including her coordinated attacks, count as basic attack damage. While the off-field damage provided by her liberation makes up a majority of her damage, setting it up properly is important, as she receives buffs as part of her combo and inherent skill. So, how does her combo work? Here's the TLDR. First, build up her forte with, ideally, 1 intro skill and 1 basic attack combo. Then, press her skill and heavy attack to create her 3 imprints. Having at least 1 imprint enables her second skill. Use this twice, which unlocks her third skill, and use that to finish the combo. Doing this will also fully stack her signature weapons buffs, which we'll touch on later. Outside of this combo, Zhezhi's basic attacks are lackluster compared to normal DPS units. Because of this, she fits in a similar niche as Yinlin, a coordinated attack off-field DPS that requires a bit of field time. She also happens to have a very similar outro, buffing Glacio and skill, as opposed to Electro and Liberation. Let's talk about her sequence nodes next. In the following graph, we'll be examining the value of Zhezhi's sequences for her personal DPS calculated in a team setting with Jinhsi and Verina, and Zhezhi using her own signature weapon. Her first sequence node restores some resonance energy and gives a crit rate buff upon using her skill 2. Her S2 increases the maximum procs of her liberation, which is a decent damage gain that also helps Jinhsi gain more stacks. S3 adds a stacking attack buff to her skill casts. This is also worth a good amount of damage. Next is her S4, which grants the entire team an attack buff upon using her liberation. Like other team buff sequences, this isn't worth the most in terms of personal damage, but is quite nice for the team. Her S5 adds a bit of extra damage every 3 procs on her liberation, adding up to quite a respectable amount. Finally, S6 adds an extra hit of damage to her skill 2 and 3, which turn out to be a very significant amount. All in all, her sequences are nothing too special, and don't change her gameplay or add anything aside from just damage. Anyway, let's look at her weapon options next. For weapon calculations, we'll be using the same Jinhsi Verina team as a rotation basis, all at S0. We'll use Cosmic Ripple's R1 as a 100% value for comparison. Cosmic Ripples is generally a very solid weapon on her. Because her liberation ticks count as basic attacks, they will always keep the passive effect on Cosmic Ripples stacked, even when off-field. However, despite this, Stringmaster still pulls ahead by quite a good margin, due to the large attack bonus when off-field. Even though she won't really benefit from the skill proccing portion of the attack buff as much, this still makes Stringmaster come really close to her own signature weapon. Zhezhi's Sig grants a stacking basic attack damage buff when using skills. When reaching maximum stacks, an outro will remove said stacks and grant an even stronger buff so long as its holder remains off-field. While this sounds strong, remember that damage bonus is extremely saturated, which ultimately makes this come very close to Stringmaster's off-field attack buff. Before we move on, some people were interested if this weapon would be better than Stringmaster on Encore. TLDR, it turns out to be roughly 7% worse than Stringmaster due to how Encore has a hard time stacking up the buff, and in an optimized rotation, it's better to use her Flaming Woolies normally to get the full damage from it, than to save it and cancel it before liberation just to stack the weapon's buff. Going back to Zhezhi, the BP weapon, Augment, is actually not too shabby, as the buff duration covers most of the passive damage ticks from her liberation, and should cover her burst as well in most rotations. BP weapons all have extremely high scaling rank benefits as well, so this actually can pull pretty close to Cosmic Ripples, but slower rotations may lead to a bigger loss in damage, because the timing can be kinda tight. Jinzhou Keeper, the Copium option, offers Copium damage as usual, but still serviceable if you don't have anything else. Next, we'll look into build and echo optimization. What echo set and build should Zhezhi use? Here's a table of values using the same example Jinhsi Verina team as earlier. Everyone is considered at S0 with their R1 signature weapon, except Verina, who is on R1 variation. In this example, running Moonlit Clouds is roughly a 10% team damage gain over running the Glacio set. Moreover, the standard 43311 Ella build is the strongest, despite her normal attack weighting and large amount of damage bonus from her signature weapon. Of course, this is when she is played as a supportive sub-DPS. We'll cover some other builds in the team comp section when we get to it. For substat comparisons, here's a chart with two values. The darker value reflects the relative gain for when you have no substats at all, and the lighter value is the value at the other end, when you have full substats. Crit is, as always, the highest value. However, interestingly enough, basic attack damage is a very coveted line on her, even more so than attack percent. And that's with her signature weapon in play. This is due to how an overwhelming majority of her damage is basic attack, and her rotation doesn't fully stack the weapon until the end. Okay, let's look at teams now. The first team we'll look at is, you guessed it, the Jinhsi Zhezhi Verina comp that we've been using as a base. In this team comp, you don't actually need any energy regen on Zhezhi, but you'll want around 22.3% energy regen on Jinhsi. For the rotation, we'll focus on a few things. We'll want to get Jinhsi's first outro out ASAP, in order to accelerate the rate she gains stacks. In the follow-up, rather than doing one burst at a time, we'll instead be arranging it in such a way that we enter the incarnation state on Jinhsi early in preparation for a double epiphany rotation. This way, we can set up Zhezhi's outro to buff Jinhsi's burst not once, but twice. While she won't have that many stacks for the second burst, this maximizes the value of Zhezhi's buffs and yields much higher DPS than doing single epiphany rotations. Let's jump into the rotation walkthrough. Start out with Jinxi's Echo and skill, and swap to Zhezhi and use her skill for some free damage. Switch to Verina and use her swap-in basic attack 345, skill, and then liberation. Do 2 mid-air attacks, then outro to Jinhsi. Dodge cancel her skill 2, and then use her first 2 incarnation attacks, skill 3, and swap to Zhezhi for her liberation before swapping back to Jinhsi, use her liberation, and finish the incarnation combo with 2 more basic attacks and epiphany. Outro back to Zhezhi, use her 3-part basic attack combo, cancelling the end with her skill and forte, before using Heron and swapping to Verina in the process. Do Verina's 3-4-5 basic combo and skill again, and use her Echo here. We held Bell for this second rotation, as the second rotation will be vastly stronger than the first, and more important to buff. Do a couple mid-air attacks here, and switch to Jinhsi. We'll load up her incarnation state the long way here, with basic attack 2-3-4, followed by skill 2, instantly cancelling it with a dodge. Use 2 incarnation attacks and press her skill and echo, then switch to Zhezhi. Tap her skill 3 times, and then outro to Jinhsi. Finish her epiphany combo we built up earlier, and then do a basic attack combo to enter incarnation again. Here we do her combo similar to what we did at the start. Dodge cancel skill 2, incarnation basic attack 1 and 2, skill 3, basic attack 3 and 4, epiphany. After this, we outro to Zhezhi and repeat from there. Now, how about a comp that focuses more on Zhezhi as a DPS? Due to how much of her damage is basic attack damage, the most obvious partner for her is Sanhua, who has a massive basic attack amplify in her outro. Perfectly enough, Zhezhi happens to buff both skill and Glacio in return, making the two a powerful damage duo. Baizi or Verina can both be added to the party as a third wheel to provide some buffs. We'll just use Verina in here because not everyone has Baizi's sequence nodes unlocked. In this team, energy regen is not a requirement for either Sanhua or Zhezhi. But let's talk about the team damage split and builds a bit. The total damage is decently split between both Zhezhi and Sanhua. As such, we want to run them both on Glacio set. The Zhezhi on Moonlit is not that much of a DPS loss, as she doesn't benefit from the skill portion of Lampy Lumen Myriad's buff like Sanhua does. However, she is still optimal on Glacio set, but with a random summon echo such as Glacio Prism as the main summon instead of Lampy Lumen. Because these have no cast time, they won't slow down your rotation for a mediocre buff. Okay, let's now go through the rotation. We'll start out with Zhezhi's Liberation to get the cooldown rolling, followed by her Echo and skill. Hit Sanhua's Liberation and land her Forte Detonate. Swap to Verina for her usual outro combo. Swap in basic attack 3-4-5, cancelling the last one with her Liberation after it hits. Use her skill, cancel it with Bell, and then use 2 mid-air attacks and outro to Sanhua. During Sanhua's intro, buffer a heavy attack. Make sure to purposely mistime it as to not use her forte, as we want to use her heavy attack as a basic 4-5 shortcut. After the 5th basic attack connects, cancel it with her skill, and then use her forte detonation. Use her echo and outro to Zhezhi. Use her 3-part basic attack combo, following it up with her skill. Use her heavy attack forte, and then her skill 3 times, swapping out after the last one. Repeat Sanhua's last combo with her heavy attack, basic 4-5, followed by skill and liberation. Do one last detonate, making sure to wait for the detonation to resolve before swapping out, as to not lose Zhezhi's outro buff. The rotation essentially just loops between the two, with both of them doing their full combo. However, don't forget about your third wheel. You will need to shoehorn Verina's outro rotation in there somewhere to refresh her buffs and also feed another outro to Zhezhi for the concerto gain. And that's about it for this deep dive. Make sure to keep your eyes on the build library and my DPS calculator to see if any new comps get added. Zhezhi could also work decently with Chun-Li, but I was too lazy to cook that rotation up. Maybe you'll see that one in a potential follow-up video. In closing, I would like to thank our channel members for helping to support the channel. This is my first video since I've quit my job to do full-time content, and here's hoping for many more. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!